How does someone go from a nerdy teenager to the world's richest person to a global philanthropist? The answer starts with an obsession that began when Gates was just 13 years old. Bill Gates was born on October 28, 1955, in Seattle, Washington. He wasn't your regular kid. He was a boy who saw the future before anyone else did. While most teenagers were having fun, Bill Gates was buried in code, building the tools that would one day run the modern world. He didn't wait for an opportunity, he created it. He turned obsession into innovation, and innovation into an empire. At 13, he discovered computers at the exclusive Lakeside Prep School, and everything changed. This wasn't just casual interest. He started learning how to code. He wrote his first computer program, a simple game of tic-tac-toe, and was hooked for life. Gates became absolutely obsessed. He'd skip classes to program, spending hours finding bugs in computer systems just for fun. Along with his friend Paul Allen, they were so good at it that companies started paying them to fix their software. At age of 17, they started a small company called Trafo Data, which used early computers to process traffic data for cities. It wasn't a huge success, but it taught them how to run a business and write real software. Gates scored an insane 1590 out of 1600 on his SATs. Naturally, Harvard, one of the top schools in the world, accepted him. He was admitted as a freshman in the fall of 1973. At first, Gates enrolled with the intention of studying pre-law, probably influenced by his father, a well-known attorney. But he was so fascinated by logic, algorithms, and programming that he spent most of his time working on computers in Harvard's computer lab rather than attending his regular classes. And that obsession was about to pay off in ways nobody could have imagined. In 1975, everything exploded. Gates and Allen saw an article about the MIT's Altair 8800, basically the first personal computer. They immediately saw the future. Personal computers were about to explode, and nobody had yet written software for them. They reached out to the makers of the MIT's Altair and claimed they had a version of the basic programming language ready for it. But they didn't. They were completely bluffing. They had just weeks to actually create what they promised. Working around the clock, they built a basic interpreter that would make the Altair actually useful. The demonstration was a complete success. The code actually ran on the first try, and just like that, boom, Microsoft was born. Bill Gates knew this was his shot, a once-in-a-lifetime kind of moment. So what did he do? He dropped out of Harvard at just 19 years old to go all in on the business. But let's be real. Can you imagine that conversation with his parents? But the real genius move came in 1980. IBM needed an operating system for its new personal computer and approached Microsoft. Here's what most people miss. Gates didn't just sell them software. He negotiated a deal that let Microsoft keep the rights to license that same software to other companies. This decision, this one contract negotiation, essentially built the foundation for Microsoft's dominance. While IBM thought they were getting a simple software supplier, Gates had just set up the biggest tech empire in history. Every time someone bought an IBM-compatible computer, which became basically every computer, Microsoft got paid. By the 1990s, Microsoft had captured over 90% of the personal computer market. Gates wasn't just building a company. He was making his teenage dream come true, putting a computer on every desk and in every home. By the mid-90s, Microsoft Windows was everywhere. If you had a computer, chances are it was running Windows. And guess who was behind it all? Yep, Bill Gates. In his 30s, he became the richest person on the planet. But here's where Gates' story gets really wild. In 2000, at the peak of his power, Gates did something that nobody saw coming. He basically said, "You know what? I'm done chasing money," and stepped back from Microsoft to focus on giving it all away. Right now, Bill Gates is planning how to eradicate malaria from the planet. This is the same man who Forbes ranked as the world's richest person for 17 out of 22 years, including 13 years straight. He could buy literally anything he wants, but instead spends his days figuring out how to give away his fortune as fast as possible. He's pledged to donate 95% of his wealth before he dies. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation became one of the largest charitable organizations in human history. We're talking about over $100 billion in total charitable spending so far, with Gates pledging to give away 95% of his wealth. But this isn't your typical rich guy writing checks to feel good about himself. Gates approaches charity the same way he built Microsoft, like he's trying to solve the world's biggest puzzles. They've nearly wiped out polio, saved millions of kids with vaccine programs, funded everything from mosquito nets to prevent malaria to completely reimagining how schools work. Gates literally treats global problems like they're bugs in code that need fixing. In 2010, he convinced Warren Buffett to help him start the Giving Pledge. Basically, they went to other billionaires and said, Hey, how about we all promise to give away most of our money? Over 200 billionaires signed up. Gates didn't just change how we use computers. He changed how the super rich think about their responsibility to the world. The kid who was so obsessed with computers that he dropped out of Harvard didn't just create Microsoft. He created a blueprint for using success as a platform for even greater impact. What's your obsession going to create? Tell us in the comments section.